Have you ever noticed how so many things today are just functional? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that my stove works, but wouldn't it be really cool if it also looked like it was in an art museum? Since moving to Vienna, I have been surrounded by design and architecture that's not just useful, but stunningly beautiful. And it's got me thinking, when did we stop caring about art and beauty in everyday things? Let's talk about it. Living in Vienna, it's hard not to notice the thought and care that went into designing the city. From the intricate carvings on doorways to the wrought iron signs for businesses, every detail feels intentional. But this isn't just a Vienna thing. In the past, most everywhere, people made everyday objects beautiful. Whether it was a building, a toaster, or even a hairbrush, form and function were equally important. Take this curling iron, for example, from the Art Nouveau era. Just look at the detail. Did they need to add these gorgeous swirls? No, it doesn't change the function of the piece, but they did because why not make it beautiful? Or my vintage toaster and matching coffee percolator from the 1930s with this spiderweb design on the sides. Imagine starting your day with toast and coffee made by a work of art. These are things that people used every single day, but they were also surrounded by beauty. I have a special love for vintage and antique toasters, and I do hope to collect a few more. I just love how seemingly mundane items can be insanely beautiful. And have you seen kitchen scales from the late 19th and early 20th centuries? They were functional items used daily in homes that featured intricate cast iron designs and often had enamel or porcelain faces with beautiful typography. Or cast iron heating stoves meant to keep you warm, or cooking ranges for daily baking and cooking food, but also designed with ornate patterns and striking details that just turned them into a focal point in the home. These items combined necessity with artistry. But it wasn't just kitchen items that got this treatment. Beauty was woven into just about everything. Radios and clocks were functional, sure, but some from like the Art Deco or mid-century eras were also designed with those iconic geometric shapes and sleek lines and intricate swirls that really made them stand out. Or fans. I mean, these are incredibly useful items that did not need to be beautiful, but they were. Even something as simple as a letter opener or desk sets often had ornate handles with floral or animal motifs on them. Everyday tools were little pieces of art designed to delight as much as they were to serve a purpose. Other useful tools like Victorian sewing kits were often made of silver or ivory with intricate engravings. And these were everyday tools like scissors or thimbles, not items that were typically left out to be a part of the general decor. So the artistry was there to simply make them works of art in their own right. And of course, we cannot overlook the beauty of vintage and antique sewing machines. These incredibly useful and well-used items were detailed and beautifully ornate. I am a sucker for antique and vintage product packaging, like old tins for spices or canned goods, soaps, and of course beauty products. The typography and illustrations are so detailed and artistic. Companies knew that packaging wasn't just about holding a product, it was about creating a visual experience. So even everyday grocery items felt a little bit more special because of the care that went into their design. Let me ask you something. How often do you stop and appreciate an object that's just beautiful? Not for the function of it, but just for the beauty. Maybe it's something in your own kitchen or something you've noticed in your town or neighborhood. I encourage you to take a moment and really look around and find something that didn't need to be that beautiful, but was made that way because the maker believed that it mattered. And share what you find in the comments. I would love to hear about it. So when did the focus shift from beauty to function? It's a big question, but let's explore a few possibilities. The Industrial Revolution was a turning point, obviously. Suddenly, mass production made it faster and cheaper to make things, but often at the cost of artistry. Before the Industrial Revolution, most items were made by artisans who poured their creativity and craftsmanship into every piece. A single chair, for example, might have taken days or even weeks to make, with every curve and detail carefully considered. But with the rise of factories, the focus shifted to efficiency, speed, and uniformity. Machines could now produce hundreds of chairs in the time it took for an artisan to make just one. This was great for making goods more affordable and accessible, but it also meant that the personal touch of the artisan was often lost. Design became more about standardization and less about individuality. Then came the Great Depression and 2 world wars on either side, which shaped people's priorities. During these times, the focus shifted to practicality and survival. Resources were scarce and extravagance just wasn't exactly top of mind. People needed things that worked and they needed them quickly and cheaply. This was an era of make, do, and mend, so practicality often took precedence over aesthetics. Post-war minimalism started to take hold, and it was partly in reaction to the excesses of earlier styles and partly just about making things more efficient. By the 1950s and 60s, less is more became the mantra. Designers like Dieter Rams championed the idea that good design should be unobtrusive and purely functional. And packaging shifted too. Companies started prioritizing cost and simplicity over beauty. And here we are today. Things are streamlined, efficient, but kind of soulless. Like this hairdryer. Sure, it works and it functions perfectly well, but does it spark joy? Now this sparks joy for me. The function of a hairdryer hasn't really changed since its invention, but boy, has the design changed. In Vienna, you still see echoes of a time when beauty mattered. Building facades and porte cochères like these were designed to not only shelter you from the elements, but to impress you. And these wrought iron shop signs, they're practical, sure, but they're also little pieces of art hanging in the street. Now, I'm not here to complain about modern life. I love my smartphone and my computers as much as anyone. But I do think that there's a value in appreciating beauty just for beauty's sake. And it's kind of like we've forgotten that objects can do more than just work. They can inspire us. Consider depression glass, for instance. During a time when people had very little, manufacturers still created colorful, intricately designed glassware that was both affordable and lovely. There's something about using beautiful things that make even the mundane feel special. Luckily, there are companies that are starting to bring back beauty into their designs. You can find modern reproductions or items inspired by vintage styles if you look for them. I think as vintage enthusiasts, we're constantly seeking out these vintage and antique items, sometimes solely for their aesthetics. In my own home, I have items that don't really serve a purpose other than to be pretty. And that's okay. These objects, they bring me joy and remind me of a time when beauty was valued as much as practicality. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. It's really fascinating to see how beauty and function once walked hand in hand. Whether it's a vintage toaster, an ornate sewing kit, or even a simple tin with beautiful typography, these objects tell stories that are beyond their purpose. Let's celebrate the little details that make life feel special. And maybe, just maybe, we can bring a little bit more art back into our everyday lives. I hope this inspires you to look around and notice the details and appreciate the artistry hidden in plain sight. Until next time, keep finding beauty in the everyday. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.